Om Shri Sai Ram Shanti Vahini by Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba. Chapter 9 Supreme Bliss is the basis to achieve highest truth. Mahatattvam. The nature of awareness is to reveal all the objects. That nature of awareness is the property of the Atma, all-pervading consciousness only. The sun and fire can only reveal other objects, but not the darkness that expands at night. It is because of the false reasoning of the experience or awareness of these objects and the experience, awareness of the darkness. But the awareness produced because of the Atma has no such distinction. It is favorable to all names, forms and all objects. It illumines all. Hence the statement about the nature of Atma. Tam Deva Jyotisham Jyoti. The gods acclaim the Paramatma as the light of lights. Its form is Jnanam of wisdom, but the physical body is not like that. The appearance of every physical body is ever changing, but since the Atma shines equally everywhere and illumines everything without any distinction, and it is of the nature of Anandam, eternal bliss, and of Chaitanyam, or pure consciousness, it becomes Brahman. This conviction is what is called as Jnanam. Note this: he who sees a pot does not assume himself that he is the pot, isn't it? Similarly, when one considers the body as this is my body, meaning body is distinct and different from me, how is it that one can identify oneself with the body just because he has attachment towards it? However, people are assuming so. They are identifying themselves with their physical forms. This is what is mamakaram. Mamakaram or attachment, and a jnanam or ignorance. Jnanam, which is of the nature of the Atma, is indestructible. A jnanam, which assigns physical bonding, is destructible. The Atma is formless, hence the threefold affliction. The Tapatrayam does not affect it and cannot affect it. It is always in its non-dual reality and changeless nature at all times, and it is free from Sadbhava Vikaras, the sixfold mutations, that is birth, growth, change, old age, decay and death. It is distinct from the guest-like body which it inhabits. The body is subjected to various illnesses arising from Vata, or subtle energy associated with movement, Pitta, and Sleshma, or energy of lubrication and structure, growth and decay. The Atma is free from all such mutations and disturbances. The Atma has no desires, impulses, or intentions. It is also beyond the Tamsika, Rajsika and Sattvika qualities. That is why it becomes Kriya Sunya, or the state of non-doership. Prakate, Kartri, Purushatu, Puskara, Pala, Swanirlipaha. The Prakriti, or the nature which consists of gunas or qualities, is the doer of all kriyas, acts. The nature of Atma is as the lotus on the water, unaffected, unattached. The Atma is known by the word I or Aham. Pranayama, breath control. Pratyahara, restraining the sense organs. Dharma, concentration. Dharana or concentration. Dhyana or meditation. And Samadhi, complete absorption. The impurities caused by the nature of avidya can be cleansed. Then the buddhi or intellect becomes pure and sharp and helps to realize the Atma. Ignorant people who are not able to understand the true nature principle of Atma delude themselves by the belief that they can derive joy from the objective world which their senses can experience. If only one inquires and reflects a little, it will be realized that everything is the same Atma Anandam only and nothing else. All Anandam is Atma Anandam and full of Amritam or divine nectar. But when one can rest in the endless coolness of the actual full moon sailing in the sky, who will be content with the lifeless painted moon and its painted light on a piece of canvas? Who will care even to cast a glance at it? As the saying goes, will anyone who has the option of drinking sweet nectarous honey opt to taste a bitter juice? So too, the sadhaka who has tasted the nectar of self-knowledge and the knowledge of the Atma can never desire to taste thereafter the sensory joys of the objective world. The person engrossed in a painted moon can never know the real moon and what it confers. So too, the Mudha Manava or the ignorant man, deluded by the attraction of Prakriti or nature, wallows in the unreal manifold world shaped by the three gunas, Tamsika, Rajsika and Sattvika qualities, and accepts it as real, and so he cannot understand the true principle of Atma. On the other hand, the Vijnani or the learned man who understood the reality gives up the glittering falsehood of the seen, perceptual objective world and revels in the Atma, deriving Shanti therefrom. So, never mistake the Drishya, the perceptual objective world, to be permanent or true. You cannot exult in anything also. You cannot exult in anything else except the ocean of Anandam of the indivisible, undivided Atma or Brahman. A true human being can get real and full contentment only in the significant, sweet, meaningful experience of the Parabrahman itself. Only that can give solace from this sorrowful and painful samsaram cycle of birth and death. These unreal things of the perceptual objective world, the present moving world, which is without absolute existence and significance, can never yield real and full contentment to man. Nothing other than the Atma can ever at any time, in any manner, confer and benefit or bring about any Shanti or put an end to sorrow and shower Ananda. Therefore, these unreal, uncertain, sensual objects and joys of the world can never confer even an iota of benefit or give any Ananda or provide any proof of Shanti. Asat or non-self-existent objects means imagined or projected things like silver in the nacre, mother of pearl, with no real silver, which one can take water in the mirage, with no real water to slake one's thirst, etc. So too, when you base your life on the sensory objective world, which is anatma or non-self or others than self, produced by ignorance or avidya, you can never derive happiness or joy. Such pictorial products of fancy cannot appease hunger or slake thirst or satisfy desire. Only the real objects, when acquired, can produce those results. So too, the removal of the recurring sorrow of samsaram can be effected only by the realization of Brahman. Genuine Shanti cannot be earned just by means of desires and intentions, study and scholarship, pomp and publicity. It must be experienced as such, however small in extent. By mere force of intention, one can imagine in an instant a scene in America or London. But can it also be experienced in actuality at that very instant? No. There is no use imagining and framing in the fancy. It must be experienced in mind and word and body. Then only can one claim to have genuine Shanti. Therefore, merely thinking or imagining about Brahman or Shanti or Satyam or Sakshatkaram is of no use if there is Ananda in such imagination. Is there Ananda in such imaginations? No. You have to dedicate your life to win that Anandam and experience it and enter upon the discipline needed to acquire it. Then only do you deserve the grace of the Lord and the attainment of Brahman. Then only can you get the true Anandam. Vivekachudamani also taught about the above mentioned subject in many ways. He who follows its teachings without deviation can taste its essence, the nectar of true Anandam. The goal of life is to experience such Anandam, devoid of the sorrow that is inevitable in dealing with sensory objects. Having no intentions and desires, one should partake of the nectar of Brahma Anandam or the bliss of Brahman and be immersed fully in true spirit and enjoying the bliss of one's own real reality. Man alone of all creation has the qualification to achieve this supreme joy. What a sad tragedy that he, endowed with such amazing powers and capabilities, is falling prey to Maya or delusion and forgetting the nectar of true Anandam. He is seeking false pleasures of this delusionary materialistic world. Sometimes children play with dolls, calling them elephants and horses, but play does not make them real elephants and horses. Even that play itself is not factual. Similarly, ignorant and innocent people play in all seriousness, imagining the objects of this delusional world to be real. They incur many joys and sorrows, gains and losses, but that does not make the Maya, Jagat or illusionary world less unreal. They are as real as the joys and sorrows, sins and fears that you experience in the Swapna Avastha or the state of dreaming. All these worldly affairs are also fictional. He who knows this secret will always exult in the joy of companionship with oneself and the contemplation of one's own inner reality and experience eternal bliss. Therefore, listen all sadhakas, you whose real nature is Atmik, seek to discover your true nature, your genuine reality. Attain the realization that you are the Atman itself. Exult in the Atma alone. Experience the eternal, incomparable, unlimited bliss of the awareness of the real self and let time merge in him whose form is time. That is the primary task and bounden duty of man as taught in the Vivekachudamani. Jnana Ashkam Samadritya Jnani Sudrayan Bhavat Sevya Nirantam Swasmin Swa Ananda Manubhun Jayate, meaning with the amulet of Jnana around his arm, one can move around without being caught by the evil influence of the wild stars called sensual attractions. Such a person is a Dridha Jnani, person of resolute Drid Dhyani, Drid Jnani, or person of resolute wisdom. But one should not, out of the boldness born of the consciousness of Jnanam, give free vent to the senses. One should always be immersed in the contemplation of one's own inner reality without giving any scope for the external world to find a way to enter into him. That is the sign of a perfect Jnani. When one is ever in that state of one's own inner reality of Parabrahman, ever in that state of supreme Shanti and observes Monam, withdrawing oneself from communication through all the senses and meditating only on Brahman, the self-illuming truth, the absolute awareness of true knowledge, of wisdom will ever be before the mind's eye and conceal the projected objective world. Instead, if various objects and uncertainties are superimposed on that undivided, unlimited Brahman, It will be similar to projecting a city over the consciousness, which is your true nature. The Akasha, or the pure consciousness, of course, is your true nature. But for that reason, can it be possible for anyone to build castles in the Akasha? All these seem to be unreal, baseless creations of your own fancy. So too, in the Akasha, like formless Parabrahman, all this superimposed Drishya, or the seen transitory world, is asatya, non-self-existent. It is one's Chaitanya, or pure consciousness, which is non-dual, blissful Parabrahman, that is all-pervading. By always enjoying the Shanti that is maintained as a result of restraining all Chitta vrittis, or the mental tendencies modifications, by keeping away the mind from Drishya world, and by observing Monam. By observing Monam, one can reach the state of one's own absolute reality of Parabrahman, which transcends all the sensory perceptions. That is the real Sakshatkaram, realization, that is the goal of life. Monam bhajasva, it is said, but what is Monam? It means getting beyond the influence of all the activities of all the senses and getting established always in the consciousness of one's own reality. Perpetual Ananda is also perpetual Shanti. Monam is the Rupa, or the reflection of form of Parabrahman, which makes the mind speechless, which goes beyond the cognizance of the mind, and which desists from the activities of all the senses. This stage cannot be described in words, it cannot be communicated to others as such and such. It belongs only to the realm of experience. Monam means Sakalatita Parabrahman Swarupam, the embodiment of the Supreme Absolute that is beyond everything. He who has reached it will be in the highest Shanti and the highest Ananda. At that time, if the activities of the buddhi or intellect are destroyed, and if the buddhi is harbored in Brahman, one will become suffused with Parabrahman. One has to observe all these seen world from afar with an uninterested attitude. Only such person alone can overcome Prakriti or nature and become a noble one. The buddhi or intellect, which is responsible for the impediments of knowledge like misconception of non-self, indecisiveness, and disorderliness, will now become peaceful and quiet. The nature of the buddhi or the intellect, which is the root cause of everything, becomes pure and shines as pragyana, pure knowledge. So long as buddhi is vichishtata, or wavering, the world appears manifold. When the buddhi is motionless, Shanti envelops man. He is immersed in tejas, or splendor. He is in the akhanda, paripurna anandam, undivided complete bliss. This state is also called nirvikalpa monam, eternally established in the divine. Therefore, may all sadhakas, by their disciplined lives and ceaseless effort, establish themselves in the knowledge of their own Swarupam, their own reality. May they keep their minds away from the Drishya world. Contemplate always on the Paramatma, acquire peace of mind, withdraw from all contact with the sensory world, saturate themselves in Ananda, and know themselves as the one without a second. This is the Udasin Bhavam, the stage of disinterestedness, the condition of the person who has grasped the Paripurna Jnanam, or the complete awareness of truth. There will never more be another everything, that is himself. The holy sages and philosophers, Shuka, Sanaka, Sanandana, and others too enjoyed the bliss of this incomparable monam. Those who have attained this eternal status continue to remain in such nirmaya, pure and secure state, for they have no need for further thought or inquiry, as Atma is nirvikara, that is unchangeable. This is what is referred to as holy monam. Parama Shanti, or the supreme peace, is the fundamental basis to achieve this Mahatattvam, highest truth or realization. Any person or community who possesses this Vivekam or discrimination will never forgo his holy conviction and lead their lives accordingly. The special characteristic of man among all created beings is his Vivekam, his power of discrimination. He is therefore bound to act always using his discriminating capacity. But there are two opponents putting obstacles in his way. One, the idlers who are ignorant and prompt towards inaction, and two, the teachers of Sankhya, or system of philosophy which inquires into the nature of material objects. The first set of people, the ignorant idlers, though they may desist from activity through their karma indriyas or the organs of action, are unable to withdraw their minds, and they continue to commit acts in their minds. So, their attempt to practice inactivity is mithya, false or untrue. The other set of people are Sankhyans, those whose main argument is karma or action causes both punya and papa, good and evil, and so they say the wise must give up all karma. In the Gita, Krishna refuted this argument and showed the way to get only the good out of karma and avoid the evil. Sankhyam's further argument is that if karma is engaged in, the results are a mixture of pain and pleasure, of benefit and loss, and it leads the doer either to heaven or hell or back again to the earth, that is to say, to bondage of some sort, and does not give liberation. The Gita has a reply for this also. Karma will bring about bondage only when it is engaged in with a view to the fruit thereof. When done without any thought of the fruit, it leads on the other hand to liberation or moksha itself. Why? Even liberated persons engage in karma, though they do not derive any benefit therefrom, just for promoting the welfare of the world. If the liberated persons do not engage in karma, following them, the ignorant ones will be misled and spoiled. So, no one should renounce karma, whoever it may be it a mumuksha or aspirant for liberation, or a mukta purusha, liberated person, only by engaging in karma, shanti, and bhadrata or security, that is peace and security, can be won. Jai Sai Ram.
साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ